had to Google whether or not there were palm trees in Egypt, but there are, making this shirt choice perfectly, thematically on point. Hi everyone, Rosie here. Welcome back to my channel. This is a video I have wanted to make for a very long time. I read Agatha Christie's Death on the Nile, I think in December of 2020, but it's been so long that I'm not totally sure. I wanted to make a video for when the movie came out, I wanted to read the book in time for when the movie came out, and the movie just kept getting pushed back. So this video just kept getting pushed back. But it's finally here. As far as I can tell, it's definitely actually coming out on February 11th now. For those of you who have never heard of it, Death on the Nile is an Agatha Christie mystery novel. It is one of the Hercule Poirot novels, which means my captioning for this video is going to be a nightmare because auto-caption never understands Hercule Poirot. And as the title would suggest, it takes place in Egypt. Poirot is on vacation in Egypt. He's got a trip planned down the Nile on sort of like a fancy Nile cruise type thing. Sounds lovely. When he gets there, it turns out there's some suspicious things going on. There's a couple on their honeymoon and they are being stalked by the woman that the husband was supposed to marry but then sort of tossed aside when he met the wife. Of course, it's Agatha Christie. There will be murder. In this video, however, I don't want to talk about the murder or about the mystery at all or try and review the book. I am sure this book has been reviewed so many times and I'm sure there has been so much fantastic discussion of it. Instead, I want to just focus on the characters and specifically the characters in the first half of the novel. Because the murder doesn't actually take place until about 50% of the way through this book. So we have a very long time of setting the stage, tension is building, getting to know all of the characters because they're all on this trip together, right? They're all confined to a boat together, they're all traveling together. From the moment I read it, I knew that this book called out for a tier ranking video looking at each of the characters and assessing how good they would be as a travel companion. So that's what we're going to try and do today. Let's switch over to the screen recording. I thought about trying to find photos from either the current movie adaptation or a previous movie adaptation to put in all of these little squares, but I'll be honest, I didn't have time nor the interest nor the energy to do that, so I didn't. The categories. I've got let's buy tickets for like absolutely 10 out of 10 would travel with this person. A long weekend could work. For, I don't know if I'd want to go on a 3-week backpacking trip with you, but like maybe a long weekend vacation sort of thing. Maybe someday for, it's not that they're inherently a bad travel partner, just like the state that they're in right now, I don't think I'd want to travel with. Not my travel vibe for not a bad person necessarily or anything, just not someone I would want to travel with based on my preferences. And hide behind a tree to avoid. For the people that like, if you saw them across the lobby at a hotel, you would pull out a newspaper upside down just to be like, nope, I'm not here, you don't see me, don't come talk to me. The first character who's popped up, these are in random order, not the order I entered them, but appropriately, the first character who has popped up is Hercule Poirot. On the pro side for Poirot, he is incredibly precise and incredibly prepared. He has everything super planned. He knows where he's gonna be. He knows when the train leaves. He knows what hotel they have he has a booking at, all of that. That could be a plus. He's also really observant about people, so he could make for some fantastic people watching. I feel like if he was in the mood, he'd be that sort of person who'd be so fun to sit in an airport, in a cafe, wherever with, and just like watch the world go by. On the flip side, he is so precise and prepared that he is unable to change his plan at all. He is so by the book. I booked this 3 months ago and we are doing it exactly how I booked it, which can be kind of frustrating. A good travel companion has a bit of flexibility, I think. He would also be way too perceptive about everything you feel, which I think could get a little annoying after a while. The most obvious problem, everywhere he goes there's murder, and I don't know if I want murder on my vacation. For Poirot, I think I'm putting him in a long weekend could work. I am a pretty prepared, I'm a pretty planny type person. I definitely like to look up restaurants and attractions and everything before I even go anywhere. But I think his rigidity would start to really frustrate me after a couple days. And I'd be like, man, live a little. It's okay. We don't have to do coffee at precisely 9:35 in the morning. It's okay if we sleep till 10 sort of thing. So he wouldn't be terrible, but not the best travel partner either. Then we have Rosalie Otterborn. I'm not going to try and explain who all of these characters are. I'm just going to give you a gist of what they're like because there's too many. It would take too long. Rosalie Otterbourne has the huge pro of being a master at avoiding those people who try and like sell you things on the street. I don't know, maybe this is something I just naturally do. I guess I have natural resting bitch aura where if someone's coming up being like, sign a petition, give me money, do you want to buy this thing? I'm just like, I'm usually a really nice person. I'm usually really open to people, but the minute someone does that to me, I'm just like, nope, I can't even acknowledge your existence. So I like that she's in line with that. I don't like traveling with people who get sucked in and I'm sitting there going like, why are we spending 15 minutes talking to this scammer? She also wants to get away from people, which for me, a massive introvert, is kind of a pro because I think that means she'd probably be more in line with my taste in travel. Unfortunately, she is massively burnt out from dealing with her awful mother and like a bit prone to jealousy, probably because she's super burnt out. I'm putting her in the maybe someday category. She would be really fun to travel with once she's like got a bit of separation from her mother, isn't quite so worn down, has had a bit of a rest. Then I think we could be really fun travel partners. But in her current state, I don't know. Then we come to Signor Cockshutt, an Italian archaeologist or interested in archaeology. I'm not totally clear. I think he might be an archaeologist. He's honestly all pros as far as we know. Another thing that I forgot to mention at the beginning, I'm only considering these characters up until the point where the murder happens. I'm not considering what we learn about them after the crime is being investigated, just what we see initially. So he's an archaeologist, as I said. He knows all of the interesting facts. He's also not afraid to strike off from the group and do his own thing. There's one scene where he's gonna go do his own excursion for the day while everyone else is doing a tour and they're all like, you can't go, it'll take too long, you can't possibly hire a car, it'll be way too expensive. And he's just like, no, I am going. I'm going to organize this. This is not a problem. I'm just doing my thing, which that is absolutely my travel style. He is, let's buy tickets. I would love to hear all the archaeology facts and travel with someone who knows what he wants and makes it happen. Next, we have Mr. Ferguson, who is a young communist who is for some reason on this boat tour. His reason for being there is kind of sketch. Massive pro with Mr. Ferguson is that he is, as far as I can tell, the only member of these characters who cares about people who aren't upper middle class white Brits. So like, yes, like that, like the idea of traveling with someone who sees everyone as people and cares about the well-being of everyone, not just themselves and other people like them. Unfortunately, he also falls a bit into the can't turn it off side of that. He's a bit of so aware of the suffering of everybody that he can't enjoy himself. For that reason, I don't know if I should put him in maybe someday or a long weekend could work. I think he could be fine for a long weekend. I think he would just get grating after more than a few days. He'd start to want to be like, okay man, we get it, it's terrible. Either don't come on vacation or enjoy the vacation, but don't come on vacation and make it miserable for everybody. Then we come to Dr. Besner, who is I think Swiss doctor or something. The only thing we really know about him is that he's always reading his guidebook. And I mean, I can't fault him. I'm gonna put him in a long weekend could work just because we don't know enough about his character to know if he'd actually be a good travel partner. But the one trait, he reads his guidebook, he's a doctor, like that's useful. So yeah, I think I could travel with him. We then come to Lynette Doyle, née Ridgway. She is the young bride in this book. I think she's going to be difficult to place. To begin with, she's incredibly rich and seems very generous. So like, I love the idea of traveling with someone who would be happy to like pay for you. That sounds selfish, but you know, who doesn't, right? She's also very intelligent and practical. That's a nice side. She's not like super silly and not paying attention to anything. She's aware of what's going on. She pays attention to her business. She's a very sensible young woman despite having everything. On the flip side, she's a bit of a tyrant. She wants what she wants and she gets what she wants, which could work for some people, but I also want what I want and tend to get what I want. We don't need to go into it. I'm working with my therapist on it, but I'm also a bit of a tyrant if I'm not careful. So that could lead to some like clashing, I think. She is also like pretty spoiled and maybe a boyfriend stealer. So I don't know, Lynette. Maybe a long weekend. I think a long weekend could be good. short enough that we wouldn't have time to get into a fight. Ooh, and now we come to the spurned woman, Jacqueline de Belfort. Her plus side is that she is very intelligent. She is very capable, very intelligent, gets shit done, makes stuff happen. We love that in a travel partner. On the flip side, she is massively hung up on a guy that you're like, why do you care? He's nothing. Why are you so hung up on this dude? She's also really prone to stalking, which is like not great. Don't love that. And a hugely messy drunk. She is firmly in the maybe someday category. The maybe someday category was designed for Jacqueline de Belfort. She gets some therapy, works through some of her issues, like gets over this breakup. I think we could have a great time. She seems like she could be loads of fun. But in her current state, I don't want to go on the unhinged breakup bender with her. Simon Doyle is Lynette's new husband. How do I feel about Simon? Not very good, honestly. He's way too inconsistent with his affection. Like, he liked this girl well enough to get engaged to her and then met her friend and was like, bye, I'm gonna marry her within a month. So like, I don't know. Seems like the kind of guy who might ditch you in the middle of a music festival because he found some dude who seems cooler. He's also a really big misogynist. Stuff like misogyny and racism, I'm only pointing out for the characters who are like extra because I think it's sort of implied that all of these upper middle class white European people are pretty racist and pretty sexist in this book written in like, I think the 30s. But he's like extra in his misogyny. So that's another strike against him. And also just like way too trusting. I don't want to travel with a guy who's going to be like, oh cool, this dude told me something's good, so like it's probably good. There's one thing to take advice and there's other things to be like, oh, you want me to sign this paper? Sure, I'll sign this paper. I don't know. I don't think I can vibe with that. So he is not my travel vibe. I wouldn't try and escape him, but like I would never choose to travel with him. Now, though, we come to Mrs. Allerton, who is a middle-aged lady traveling with her son, Tim Allerton, who we'll get to in just a moment. Mrs. Allerton really, unfortunately, doesn't have any positive attributes in my view. There's one thing that might be a positive attribute for some people. She's very friendly and chatty and like wants to get to know all the people and like get involved, but for me as an introvert, I'm just like, no, thank you. I do not want to travel with someone who's always chatting with someone new. Not my thing. And add to that, she's quite old-fashioned in her views. Very, very racist. Like, as I said, understanding that all the characters in this book are like a bit racist at least, but Mrs. Allerton is just like, whoa, half the things you say are so racist. So she gets the honor of the first hide behind a tree to avoid. Not because she's necessarily that much worse as a person than, say, Simon Doyle, because I don't want to be pulled into a conversation with that sort of person. I feel like Simon Doyle, if you just like didn't really respond, would wander off and talk to someone else. Mrs. Allerton would try and pull you into her conversation about how annoying the local people of color are or something, and I just don't need that. Her son, Tim Allerton, not too much to say about him. He's gossipy, he's misogynistic, super fat shamey, seems to be kind of sketch, but I feel like isn't someone you need to hide from. So he's not my travel vibe. Awful person, would not want to know him, but like, I don't need to hide from him. Marie von Schuyler, I can't remember. I was just listening to the audiobook like yesterday and I've already forgotten how they pronounce this name, is a very wealthy, very elderly American lady who is the worst snob. She is so entitled, so horrible to everyone around her, looking down her nose at everybody. Honestly, not my travel vibe. Like with Tim Allerton and Simon Doyle, I don't feel the need to hide behind a tree because she just wouldn't acknowledge my presence, and that's fine. She's awful, but as long as I don't have to be with that awful, that's all that matters for this. Cornelia Robson is Marie von Schuyler's young, poor cousin who's been brought along as like a lady's companion. Honestly, not too much to say for her. She's game for whatever. Whatever you ask her for, she'll do. She gets along with people really easily, so that's nice. Her only downside is that she lets literally everybody walk all over her, which could maybe get annoying, but honestly, I think as long as I could keep my tyrant side in check, let's buy tickets. She's super fun. She seems like she's always down to like go along with what people want to do. And as long as I could be conscious of being like, right, Cornelia, but what do you want to do today? We could have a great time together. Our second last character is Andrew Pennington. On the plus side, Andrew Pennington is a very quick thinker, quick to make a plan. I like a man who can catch a boat in the span of a couple of hours, and a woman, obviously. I like a person who can be like, right, I need to leave New York and be in Egypt. There's a steamer leaving in 3 hours. I'm getting it. That is my kind of travel companion. On the downside, he's a lawyer, which nothing against lawyers in general, just like this one gives me kind of sketch vibes. And seems to be doing some kind of sketch financial things maybe. Unclear, but like that's sort of implied. I feel like he'd be really fun for a long weekend. If he could leave the work at home, which is part of his problem on this trip, he's not leaving the work at home. But if he could, I feel like he'd be exactly the sort of friend you'd want to be like, hey man, do you want to drive 3 hours away to do this random thing this weekend? And he'd say, sure, give me half an hour after work to grab my toothbrush and let's hit the road, which would be great, but I don't know if I'd want to hang out with him long term. And our last character, Salam Otterborn, who is Rosalie Otterborn's mother, and the reason that Rosalie is incredibly burnt out. Oh boy, she is a character. She is an author of some apparently very successful books, although unclear because she doesn't seem to be doing too well. She is the original entitled influencer. She is convinced that everyone should be so pleased that she's staying at their hotel or whatever and should definitely be giving her a discount, which, oh boy, I do not want to be involved with that. That would make me curl up and die. Also, she keeps trying to make everyone read her smutty for the 1930s books. And even as a massive reader, I don't want to be around someone who's constantly like, have you read my book? That would just be way too weird. Like Miss Allerton, she talks to everybody. So, hide behind a tree. All right, so this was my character ranking of the characters from Death on the Nile as travel companions. I'm pleasantly surprised by how many of these fell in the a long weekend could work or better categories. I thought all of them were going to be awful. Let me know down below who out of these sounds like the sort of character you would like to travel with, or if none of them do, because fair, I'd get that. Let me know what traits your ideal travel companion would have. And if you like this video, please give it a like down below. If you'd like to see more of my videos, please hit subscribe, and thank you for watching.